Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a Premier League presentation bringing you guys a game between Fnatic and Team Dignitas. This is game 2 of the best of 3 series. As you can see at the top of the screen there, a little tick mark, that means that Fnatic has just won game 1 of this series. We're going to see whether or not Team Dignitas can pull it back or if it's going to be a 2-0 shutout in favor of Fnatic here. It was a really interesting game, the previous one, with a Warlock Visage and a Spectre pick. Just really unorthodox type stuff, but in the end, it didn't pan out for them. Just too much aggression coming out of Fnatic, and we'll see how the next one plays on out. But really cool play, one way or another from both teams, and we'll see, again, as we move on into this next game. I am Blaze of the Premier League. Rainmaker is not going to be casting this one with me. Most likely will come in on game 3 if that exists. Otherwise, not a big deal. I'll solo cast it up. Generally, going to have the two of us for most days, but for this one here, happy to bring you guys this content solo, and shouldn't be that big a deal. So, I'm curious to see what kind of bans come out in response to what we saw last time around. Right now, it seems kind of traditional with the Cupid Light and the Nyx Assassin. This time, Team Dignitas does have a first pick available, but it's just two heroes that they don't intend to pick up themselves and don't want to have to give away to the opposition. So, I'm curious to see what instead they have their eye on for this first pick material, and kind of going on into that, we'll have to take a look. In the meantime, Wisp has been banned out, and Fnatic has their final selection ahead of them. They do kind of have the opportunity to maybe do a throwaway ban so that they can easily pick up two very high tier heroes right off the bat with their secondary pick, or they could go for something along the lines of banning out a Darkseer or an Undying. It really depends on what team you're going up against and how you think those heroes will be utilized. But for the time being, a lot of different options on the field. The Bat Rider is still available there, along with Undying's not that popular, but Darkseer Magnus still is very current. And along those lines, you know, Spectre, Warlock, totally OP. I don't know. But that's really their course of action. We'll have to see. The Darkseer is what Fly decides to take off the board there, and Team Dignitas will be answering back here. As far as top tier supports, Keeper Light, Nyx, Wisp are really it. So Shadow Demon, I think, is probably just below that tier, and might be an option if they feel that it's going to be a good counter for what they're going up against. But for the time being, we see Dignitas pick up that Bat Rider. In response, Gyrocopter is going to come out for Fnatic, and Lifestealer as well. So most likely going to see Era. Again, he's pretty iconic with that individual. And really fun type stuff coming out of him. He was able to dish out a ton of damage. Again, if he can get that Desolator up, it's a ridiculous amount of damage coming out physically. And one weakness of Bat Rider is that in his current state, he does not get that much durability. His strength gain was reduced back to really, I guess, balanced levels, I guess is the best way to say it. But because he generally rushes to Blink Dagger after something as simple as Arcane Boots, or sorry, not, wow, I don't know why I say that, Tranquil Boots and a Bottle, potentially, or just a Basilius. Either way, he gets the Blink Dagger early, and he likes to initiate and go on the front lines. But if any disables come out on him in that time period, when he's blinking in, he's already overextending himself, and he's not that durable. So if Lifestealer can stay on target there, he's going to be able to dish out a lot. But the one weird reason for picking up the Lifestealer is the fact that Flaming Lasso actually pierces on through Magic Immunity, so that's a detrimental effect of the Lifestealer pickup up against a Bat, is you can still be disabled despite playing the serial that desperately doesn't want to be, that he wants to stay on target, and that's how the Rage is incorporated into that. On top of that, I'm sure he'll get a Quelling Blade, so Prophet Sprout won't be relevant, but Bane, with his Enfeeble, will persist even if the Rage comes out after the fact, and same thing with the Fiend Script coming on through, just like the Beastmaster's Roar. It does have to be channeled, but beyond that, it's a really solid pick in this current situation. Trixie, or actually no, sorry, I confused the lanes here. Nature's Prophet is going to be picked up for Team Dignitas, and I'm curious to see if they're going to use it in a similar way to Trixie, where they leave the off lane open and they just try to make sure that they're controlling the jungle and getting plenty of farm on that other hero to provide split push pressure, because that's what Team Dignitas really loves to specialize in. Pushing off on different sides. Maybe they used to have Hour and the Broodmother, now they have the Nature's Prophet available, and that kind of thing makes sure that you always have to be looking across the map at different options. You have to stay mobile and stay very prevalent. But in the end, the Bane will be very powerful in the support mindset. Bat Rider most likely going on the mid lane. As comparing him to Nature's Prophet, he's going to be a bit of a slower jungler. In the meantime, Fnatic going to pick up a Lina, and I do love this pick. Combining him with a Lifestealer, the Open Wounds into Lightstrike Array is a very powerful combo for laning phase, and there's not too much that they can do about it to respond. I guess you might be able to get a Nightmare off in the extended cast animation of the Lightstrike Array from Lina, but it's here and there. It's really a kind of a difficult trigger finger reaction to be able to respond in that kind of circumstance. But Beyond that, Gyrocopter most likely going to be played as a number 2. Going to go on the mid lane, be able to 1v1 effectively up against this Bat Rider. And both of them are actually some of the best 1v1 heroes in the game. I gotta say, Bat Rider versus Gyrocopter, both of them have a lot of potential, but a simple magic stick on Gyrocopter could keep him very well sustained despite the napalm harass. Now we do see plenty of bans coming out pretty quickly here. A couple of hard carries taken off the board for Fnatic with the Luna and the Phantom Lancer, and Team Dignitas answering back with some durable frontliners, the Magnus and the Undying, as well as a Bounty Hunter, just because why not? Don't want to have to deal with that kind of momentum shift that comes with that track. So taking him out as well, whether or not that would have been something that Fnatic was looking for, and kind of pursuing from there. In their current situation, because Fnatic has Radiant, they could honestly go for a 2-2-1 setup. Lifestealer Lina on the bottom, Gyrocopter with a support to pull on the mid lane for him and try to deny out Bat Rider some experience, and then just have something on the off lane, if not the jungle. But we'll have to see. They're going to go and ban out the Enchantress, just kind of a little bit of respect to Team Dignitas and making sure that they don't have to deal with that. And she's, yeah, seen a little bit of play, especially on Team Liquid. Fluff and stuff has done some awesome stuff with her. I don't think it would have really coincided with their lineup in the sense that they already have the Prophet, who will probably relegate himself to the jungle if he feels threatened on the bottom lane. But, you know, it's neither here nor there. In the meantime, Team Dignitas still needs to pick up their number 1 carry, and as far as different options in the pool, if they want to go for late game, they can go for that Faceless Void, the Time Lock propagating on through Rage, and disabling up that Lifestealer as well. The Chronosphere is just really, really good to set up the Bat Rider to stack up some Napalm, the Bane to get in position for a good Fiend's Grip, so on and so forth. But that would also thrust them into the late game mindset, and they might not have as much early to mid, and might just opt for something simple like a CK, but they actually go for something even more unorthodox with the Razor. I honestly don't know 100% what to think about this, beyond the fact that it's just more damage steal, combining with Bane and Razor. You talk about a rank 4 Enfeebled taking out 120 damage for 20 seconds off this Lifestealer. You can do the same thing with Static Link, stealing damage over time from either the Gyro or the Lifestealer, and they're very, very auto-attack oriented. Lifestealer is actually very attack speed oriented as well, with his Feast, but his Feast is not going to be the damage that he needs to output. It's going to be just simple right clicks, and from there, Gyrocopter's Flat Cannon will be neutered. Lifestealer won't have too much available either, so it's going to put him in a bit of a rough patch here, and we'll have to kind of see how that goes on through. But Shadow Demon coinciding with Lina and Lifestealer, that honestly screams to me an aggressive try lane. They could go Lifestealer, Lina, Shadow Demon top, put the Gyrocopter on the safe lane solo or on the mid, or yeah, either way, and they will be able to dish out a ton. So Team Dignitas is really kind of using an element of surprise. They're trying to throw Fnatic off their groove, pick up some unorthodox picks, and they feel comfortable with the USE server where they can play a little bit more actively with less ping issues to, you know, have those nail-biting moments where Weaver's just spamming out that time lapse and trying to survive. So it's really, really weird, but it could work extremely effectively. There are so many little minor synergies between Dignitas' heroes, whether, like I said, the Static Link with the Enfeeble, or you could be looking at the Beetles, the Swarm, coinciding with the Eye of the Storm, all reducing armor and allowing these two, along with Nature's Prophet, to dish out a ton of damage. So finally, Era picking up, I thought he was going to go for the Lifestealer, but instead for the Alchemist. They're like, okay, well, you want to pick up a carry and a half, and along with that a Nature's Prophet, you can just farm away? Well, we're going to do something very, very similar. We're going to pick up the Gyrocopter, scalable into late game with his abilities and his attack, his Lifestealer, which is just straight up a carry who has such huge amounts of physical damage if he can avoid disables, and from there, Alchemist, one of the best farmers in the game, with that, I think they call it Greevel Greed for the time being. Greevel's Greed will keep the gold rolling for that Alchemist, and Era just wants so much money. I think that Nature's Prophet and Alchemist are just going to have a money competition where they make bank and see what they can pull out, whether from the jungle or from the laning phase. But for the time being, I'm really curious to see how Fnatic wants to lane this. If it's going to be a 2-1-2. I already talked about how Lina and Shadow Demon work well together, but they don't really have an offlaner. So the best bet I can think is it's going to be this is just complete guess based on the circumstances, but it could be something like Era go on solo safe lane bottom, no tail Fly and Hani going up top aggressive tri lane, and then have Gyrocopter in the mid versus the Bat. And again, I'm going to have to re-enable this real quick because it turns off every time. But we again did have some bugs, but now we're in. So cool little courier. For those wondering, the courier does level up when you view 25, 50, and 75 games, and so if you watch that on Dota TV with the ticket, you can get that cool little effect and have an unusual, little cute chameleon guy running all around. But In the meantime, it looks like, really, Dignitas wants to control their top lane for the time being. They want to make sure that the wards aren't going to come on out, and just looking at the vision, they're going to cross paths in just a second, the daytime, allowing them to see the opposition. They see the Nature's Prophet, they know they're up against something, but Dignitas doesn't really have hard disables to keep them in a certain position. They don't have a CK to initiate, they don't have a way to pull them out of spots, so although Nightmare could be useful, beyond that, if they engage, all they have is really damage, not the disables that they're looking for. Whereas, on the other hand, the Light Strike Array following the Split Earth, or, wow, fail, out of the following the Disruption, will easily set up a kill on anybody but the Weaver. Either way, they're just kind of batting eyelashes, getting the wards down inevitably, so this pull going to be blocked off, and they're not going to have the option of denying the creeps from the enemy here, unless they get out the sentries, which they already have available. So a simple sentry up here would easily have the sight to be able to counter that, but in the meantime, it looks like the tri-lane is actually going to involve the Alchemist, who is popping off. The Disruption will follow. They have the Concoction already flowing, and here comes Aoi taking a bunch of damage. The Light Strike Array will go on down on Nightmare, hitting both of them. Aoi might be first blood here. Doesn't get fully blocked in. No Tail messing up a little bit on that, but the right clicks are there. Oh, barely surviving. Only down on 40 HP. Arrow wants this, throws out the Concoction. One more right click to get the first blood. Arrow dropping down a low life, popping off a salve to make sure that Tides is actually overextending himself hardcore. Disruption in 2 seconds, and I believe, no, he does get the kill, but of course, Bane will fall as well. So they pick off Arrow. He's going to TP back up top in no time at all. Aoi going on in with that static link coming on through, and it's just going to be disabled up just a little bit here and there. So these two are really committing to the top lane, Razor and Bane together, but this is a very aggressive tri-lane that can, as we can see, putting out a lot of damage. In the meantime, there is Trixie up on the mid lane with that Gyrocopter, with the Magic Stick already stacking up to 5, can trade hits pretty well with Fog because of it, despite the multiple stacks of Napalm. In the meantime, Hani is going to have a bit of a rough time down on bottom up against Universe. It's just not going to be nearly as effective as they intend it to be, because their Weaver is a great solo hero once that Geminate comes through, can harass the enemy and dish out a ton of damage every time the wave is off the tower, whether pushing or just putting down damage on the Lifestealer. Centering and taking off the sentry so they can block off the pole again as needed, or possibly just ward up here so they can go for kills. Either way, they have that option available. Oh, they put the sentry in the camp. That makes sense. So with that, the block pool is blocked off once again for 3 more minutes, and that's going to help them can make sure that the poles won't be forcing their hand in any kind of those engages. And they're going for another sentry. Yeah, Tides Dota does not want that option denied of him, but there goes the sentry once more. Just a little bit more available, committing a bit more on the consumable sense. Static Link does come out, but Aoi's not going to be able to do too much with that. Maybe get an extra last hit based on the increased damage, but beyond that, he's kind of limited. Beyond that, it looks like Gyrocopter is full 10 stacks of that magic stick. In the meantime, Fog going to be transitioning it to control the runes. Gets that bottle early, and he's going to get the illusion rune intact to hang on to. In the meantime, a little bit of an exchange between Universe and Hani. He really wants to get the CS, but in the meantime, there is small domination in terms of Universe being able to dish out more, reducing Hani's health pretty substantially. And it's really good that No Tail pulled him 180 gold worth of regen. But actually, we see a lot of damage come out. Bane will get the deny, maybe? No, it actually gets pulled off. Shadow Demon makes sure he doesn't get the 9, so Lena gets the kill, but it does cost Shadow Demon his life as well. However, that is a 2-for-1. Now turning over to Nature's Prophet, they have a long duration unstable concoction going on through. The fog will not keep him alive, and with this acid spray, they should be able to get the right clicks to finish it off. So nice action there. Fly will also survive, despite interesting little block play coming out. He was pretty well creep blocked, but there's not too much that's going to concern him as he continues to run for the hills. Aoi getting disruptioned up. They pop off the concoction. They have so many of these available, and they're going to pop off another one. The Soul Catcher, unfortunately, on a creep, though, and going to get a full duration. Man, that is so much damage charged up, and that's going to be enough to bring him down with one more right click. So really, really smooth moves there, and they end up getting, I think, 3... Actually, a lot of damage down on Hani, but... they end up getting a lot of kills. I'm looking at 6-3 in favor of Fnatic for the time being, and this top lane is not going the way Dignitas wants it to. They wanted something stable, they wanted something with brain sap, and with some damage reduction to be able to survive, and instead they're just falling by the wayside. Looking at the KDA, that is 2-1-3 for both Alchemist and Shadow Demon, 1-0-4 for the Lena, actually surviving through all of this, and it's just many deaths. It looks like there was a solo kill that I did not unfortunately pick up between the Batrider and the Gyrocopter, but that we'll just look at the experience for a minute and show that that huge advantage allows the Batrider to close in on his lasso very, very rapidly. So what we see here, the Basilius is active. They're popping off the concoction. This is just such a great combo. This is one dead Soul Catcher as well to make sure of it. Nice Nightmare, but it's not going to be enough. Too much stun, too much damage, couple right clicks. We'll finish it out. In the meantime, Nature's Prophet and Razor trying to force Lina away, and now Era's in a pretty bad spot. He does have 5 armor, popping off his ulti, has Magic Stick, turning it around, pop off really, really quick concoction, can get the kill right here. They don't. A Magic Stick keeps Aoi alive for the time being, but they finish off the Prophet, and Aoi is really, really low. They don't have the mana. They get the auto attacks, but it's not going to be... Oh, Dragon Slave landing. Nice Dragon Slave coming out of Fly, going right on the path. They needed the trajectory hit, and they were able to lock him down as well. Did cost them so many carries to work with that as long as somebody's getting farm, they'll be alright. But in the meantime, Universe unwilling to commit to this dive here on Hani with him having a stout shield and 110 HP. Looking back at last hits, Gyrocopter not doing too bad, 24 compared to the 27 up on the Batrider, but that Blink Dagger will be coming down in relatively good time period. The Tranquil boots up, Bottle being crowed back and forth, and I think that Fog is going to have an okay time here. Actually, nice exchange. They do pop off the call down, and it looks like Fog is going to be able to escape on out of the second charge. Trixie does have the Tango to break on through the Sprout, and he will be able to fall back from here. So it was an interesting 1-versus-1 exchange, but Fogged, although he is very manly in this circumstance, took more from that exchange than anybody else. Oh my gosh, yeah, Flat Cannon hitting a little bit on the Courier, but not going to be able to finish it off in the meantime. Alrighty then. From there, looking at the goal graph and kind of seeing the advantage that Fnatic has gotten through kills and through a little bit in the sense of farm, has been able to put them out on top just a bit. 2k gold advantage, 1500 experience. It's not that substantial, but when you consider the late game of Fnatic, in the sense that they do have effectively 3 carries, they can do so much with this. They aren't going to prioritize all of them in farm. They have to kind of find their own, whether that means stacking the Ancients for the Gyrocopter's Flat Cannon, or just farming the jungle continuously with Alchemist, even the enemies, just to make sure you can keep that greed rolling. But either way, they're going to find their farm, and if the game stays like this, Dignitas is going to be in a really bad spot, even transitioning into the teamfight phase, as there's just been so many pickoffs so early on. Meantime, it looks like Way Too Sexy is farming up pretty aggressively here, but isn't going to be getting any big, like, Midas or anything like that anytime soon, if at all. Invisibility up on Lina, trying to scout out this Prophet, going over to the hard camp on the east, and now finding him out down the southern end, starting off with that disruption. The Soul Catcher will land, and now they're going to put off a lot of damage out of from Fly, and he's just completely screwed over. No chance of getting out of that. Bane might have tried to go for the deny, but instead, disabling Fly so that they can go on to No Tail. Tons of damage coming on through with that lasso, but instead Trixie pops off the call down, doing a lot of damage with a Assault Battery Rocket Barrage. And there we go, Fly taking a lot of damage too. Gonna pop off a stun, gonna be able to get it off, but drop as well. Hani in the fray as well. Bottom lane, really wanting to commit to this, but it's only gonna be Trixie that drops down in the end. So triple kill for Universe Dota. He really comes in to clean this up very effectively. Will move in towards... I thought he was going for a Tranquil Basilius swap kind of pattern, but he does have the treads finished here. Either way, 3-0-0, that's really where you want your Weaver to be, moving in to get some big right-click damage. But beyond that, the exchange is just... at this point in time, Dignitas is okay with an even exchange. If they can pick off the Lina early, she doesn't get her Laguna Blade on out, and they're going to be able to kind of go toe-to-toe moving on forward. The call-down was very painful for them, but they were able to outmaneuver it pretty effectively, and generally speaking, the flanking position they were in set them off on the right foot. But now, coming on through, they do Fiend's Grip along with Static Link, going to be able to Flame Break him back in a bad spot, and that's one dead Alchemist Ogre. So, taking him on down, Universe kind of squaring off against a big Laguna Blade coming out. Perfect timing from Fly, getting the Sentry Ward, and actually charging up the Laguna Blade as he heads up the cliff. I think maybe the creeps had some vision uphill as well, but not a big deal either way. Do see have some vision on Fog, go to the homing missile, and Rocket Barrage coming on through. Trixie getting a Nightmare up for the time being. Now with Way Too Sexy in the fray, wants to focus down onto No Tail. Brain Sap, setting that up very easily. And looks like Fog can just go up on the cliff, out of the map, and then just head back on in. In the meantime, though, Hani has been farming up pretty aggressively, moving up back towards 35 CS, making up for what's been kind of lost to him on the lane up against that Weaver. In the meantime, Universe Dota just in the base, looking to trying to move around and either look for kills or CS. He has full control in a 1v1 situation against the Lifestealer, but of course his team is faring rather poorly up top, and he has to make a decision when he's going to try to contribute to what's going on up there. So we do see Alchemist popping off that unstable concoction. A lot of damage on the Batrider. He won't be able to get anything out of this with the LSA, finishing off despite the Nightmare. Now going on through, they get the disruption off. Do they have any detection? No, they're going to be on the run. Instead, Wrath of Nature, big Nature coming out of Way Too Sexy. They're all dropping really low, and the Beetle's doing some nice damage over time coming in on Era. They will be able to get the concoction off, but from there, despite the double stun, it looks like Era's going to be fine. The question is, on to Fly. Universe Dota coming on through with that Shooky, and a couple more right clicks should do the trick. So yeah, Weaver going to be able to get the kill on Lina. And from there, it looks like Hani's just going to have to try to push in the meantime because there's way too much going on through. Dignitas realize they need to change the pace of the game, and that's exactly what they've done. Sending out all 4 at a time. They start off with actually getting initiated on for the Batrider, but what they can accomplish through that with a highly mobile Weaver and with a global presence, Nature's Prophet, is always be able to come out on top numbers-wise in those skirmishes, always have just at least a +1 in those exchanges, and it really is working out for them right here. Coming out the unstable concoction, the Shooky will not really effective with the Sentry Ward down here. They're going to be able to burst him down during the stun. So really, really smooth play and still taking advantage of Fly's Sentry Ward from earlier before. Looking at net worth, we do see Weaver topping out, but Nature's Prophet isn't doing too hot. Like I said, Midas is not really the best option for him. Going down on bottom, they're going to look for an easy kill on Hani with that Fiend's Grip. Is well set up for them, and they can pretty much do that back-to-back. Every time you have a Fiend's Grip available on this 100-second cooldown, and he has mana to sustain it, you just need one extra person, and the Nature's Prophet can make sure that's going to be an effective kill. Beyond that, really, they're putting a lot on the table. The chips are on the table for real, with Fnatic really wanting to go on into the late game, and they're going to need to get a tower or two to do that, to propel themselves forward. Actually missing a little bit of action on the bottom lane, but it was pretty much just an exchange between Lina and the Nature's Prophet, with Universe cleaning it up. So the Dragon Slave does lock down onto Nature's Prophet to finish the job, and he actually did go for that Midas. I said that that wasn't the best course of action for him in my mind, because of the timing of it, based on the fact that it's 11 minutes in. He's going to get one less charge out of it at the very least, but all in all, it is a great item to make sure you have lots of experience, lots of gold to work with. Now we do see some damage going down with the Soul Catcher. Fog going to take a lot here with the call down, getting slowed up, pops up the lasso, but gets hit by the second charge. Trixie surviving long enough to pop off that battery assault, or I keep on calling that, sorry, it's Rocket Barrage. He is not a Clockwork Goblin. Instead, it's going to be a turnaround right here. Nice damage coming out of Fly. Doesn't have Laguna Blade, so he's not going to finish off the Bane, but it worked out pretty well just forcing him back from this position. They did, however, pop off the buyback of Trixie, delaying even more so his Drums of Endurance, and that's going to make it more difficult to push aggressively and try to get some gold for the entire team. So, Aoi is farming up, trying to get some durability with the gauntlets, presumably moving in towards Urn, but it's hard to say. In the meantime, Era using the ultimate Chemical Rage to be able to dish out a ton of damage here. Shouldn't get the kill, but will be able to, close the distance and force Aoi down a little bit, having to use those Tranquil Boots as soon as readily able. In the meantime, though, Shadow Demon coming in with this Invis Rune could catch him off guard, but in the meantime, he is definitely going to head up top and be safer for the moment. Hani farming up, looking for that Armlet of Mordigian. If he does get that out, he's going to pretty much have all the mid-game teamfight items that he needs. I mean, he could obviously have a luxury of having more, but as long as he has that strength boost and a little bit of right-click damage through that, he's going to be in an okay position to actually engage in teamfights as long as he has Infest available. The Disruption, standard stuff coming on through, and Aoi's just going to take too much damage right here. His Illusion's actually going to kill him underneath the Acid Spray, so pretty awesome timing coming out of Era, making sure that he realizes he doesn't need to take too much from that, doesn't need to dive the tower or anything. However, on the back end, we saw Lina drop down to Weaver as he just dishes out so much damage in a short time period. And Laguna Blade's still available, but Universe going to time-lapse back to full. And it looks like he is in pursuit of a Linken's at this stage in the game. Really wants to be able to negate the Laguna Blade, possibly the the Unstable Concoction. Even the Homing Missile wouldn't be too bad. So, taking out those stuns and not having to deal with that big burst of damage unexpectedly allows Weaver to actually get his time-lapse off successfully in the middle of a team fight, despite Fnatic focusing him. And if that's the case, he will be able to survive long enough to bring his HP pretty much back to full, and from there be able to dish out a ton of damage, as Fnatic has no choice, generally speaking, but to fall back if it is a 5v5, in which they committed so much to an unsuccessful kill. Alright, beyond that, we do see Batrider moving in, closing in onto higher levels, gets the Napalm maxed out. Doesn't have too much in Firefly, so relying on that those stacks to be able to dish out the damage he intends. But beyond that, really not too much to say on that front, as his Blink Dagger is still 600 plus away. Actually, just exactly 600 away. But in the meantime, Tier 1 finally being pressured. Trixie's been hoping for this all game long, trying to get a little bit of opportunity on this tower. If every single tower they get, that's giving tons of gold to 3 carries, and that obviously is going to be more scalable and put to better use. So towers are a really big deal. Team-wide gold in general is going to be great. And so getting this tower kill for the Radiant really sets them up. And now he's going to be looking for a kill with this call down. Oh, nice. Keep on forgetting. Nightmare from the Bane. Now coming in, there is Way Too Sexy popping off a Sprout onto the Shadow Demon, so he does pop off the Demonic Purge, but just going to get burst down really hardcore. Universe should be able to finish it off unless there's a really perfect stun coming out from the Lina. They do pop off Laguna Blade, finishing off the Razor, bursting him down, and now just falling back, but unfortunately, they lose 2 supports in the process. Hani taken down. Again, I mentioned how important towers are here, and if Bane doesn't get the deny on this tower, they do not have fortification available, and Hani going to get a lot for his team right here. It is 2 last hits away. He doesn't go for it. He lets Bane take it down. I guess he thought that there was more to it than that. He assumed that the Fiend Script would be used with Nature's Prophet, maybe another person alongside him. So Hani falls back and unfortunately loses a lot of gold for his team, dropping down below that deny threshold. Now it is still positive. They're still going to increase their gold advantage just a bit, but it's not as much as they were hoping for, that's for sure.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Alchemist, I believe, might just go for the Vladimir's Offering. It's not the best item by any standpoint, but somebody's got to get it because it gives so much effective armor up against the Razor and Weaver combination. And along with that, the Lifesteal on top of Lifestealer's already substantial amount of damage output and healing from Feast will be pretty awesome for him. Other than that, it's just going to provide a nice armor aura and a bit of mana regeneration. But I definitely think somebody should be upgrading it, and since the Aquila is finished up on the Gyrocopter, he seems to be the hero of choice. But it's hard to say. In the meantime, Era's just going to keep on stacking up. His Goblin Greed is only at rank 1. Or sorry, Grievel's Greed, I don't really care. It's pretty much going to allow him to get some bonus gold, but not as much as he was hoping for. He's not going for a super hard carry build. He's going for teamfight, and we've seen it so aggressively. So instead of going for anything like a Vlad's, we actually see the Shadow Blade come out, which is a great item for huge amounts of aggression. And so far, I don't think Dignitas has dropped a single Sentry Ward other than what they've committed to their pull up top. So right now, Bane does have a couple still up his sleeve. Or if he did, and then he dropped them or something. I don't know, they're on the courier, I believe. Either way, they are not going to have that option up against this Alchemist coming on through with that Shadow Blade. He can dish out a lot, so the only Sentry Ward down on bottom lane means that they are going to be susceptible to this concoction going on through the Shadow Blade. Alchemist is going to take his own stun in his face, but just using that opportunity to try to make something happen. If they do get that stun off in an initiation, it's going to be very surprising, going to dish out a lot of damage and help them to really, really effectively initiate on a team fight. And now they're looking for this tower. Universe coming on in, pops off a swarm onto 2 heroes right here on the southern end. There is Razor dishing out a ton of damage. Big burst onto No Tail, pops off his cooldowns, but he will definitely take a fall. Instead, Laguna Blade coming out, and Bane is going to get dropped down as well. Big damage coming forth on all ends, but Fly is going to get completely wrecked here. Nice damage from Trixie. The Flat Cannon going on through, as well as the Infest. Hani and Trixie just completely owning face and cleaning up everybody with a Weaver here. The Universe on the run. He will be able to get on out of here as per that max movement speed, but it will cost them their tier 1 tower here. So really, really smooth moves from them. Moving up the combo of Shadow Demon and Lina. Soul Catcher, I believe, is rank 4 now, and combining that with the Luna Blade completely destroyed the Bane before the Fiend Script could come out. And if you don't have the disables up against heavy hitters such as Trixie, there's really not too much you can do. They were able to pick out those supports yet again, but the follow-up was there. The cleanup came on through, and that was really, really nice damage from the rank 2 Infest that is underestimated, but it's 700 radius, 275 magic damage in conjunction with the Flat Cannon call down, so it worked out very, very well in their favor, and they were able to clean it up. So looking at that gold graph swing, they are easily moving towards 4,500 gold advantage, and oh my gosh, that experience going from below 2,500 and now swinging it in their favor up towards 15. So let's look at the levels. Gyrocopter closing in on his rank 3 ultimate in a couple of levels here. Along with that, the time lapse of Weaver on rank 3 is actually pretty important as well, especially with that Lincoln's. He'll pretty much be able to survive through any initial engagement. It looks like that is not going to be the case here, though. That kind of thing is just too much damage output, and he's just going to get completely wrecked with a well-timed LSA from Fly after the disruption. But if he does get enough survivability with that Linken's, won't have to worry about the disruption at the very least to set up the LSA. He will be able to generally dodge out of that very, very delayed disable of the Light Strike Ray. In the meantime, Roche was something that they were looking at. Not going to be theirs, though. It's going to be completely sniped up by Fnatic here, picking up the Aegis on Hani this time around. And Lesto is going to be able to do a lot with that. Again, he can just jump up to full HP very, very quickly already with Infest, with the amount of lifesteal he has from Feast, and Armlet. So combine those together, by the way, pick off on the Bane. Combine those together with the Aegis the Immortal, and Hani has so much HP to eat on through if they try to bring him down. And that's why he's only died actually once so far, getting 4 assists for himself. Now the push comes in on the tier 2. They feel confident with this Aegis Immortal. They can make something happen, and if the worst comes to worst, they can go for that unstable concoction. The Bat Rider does have that blink and could lasso him during it, but that's pretty much the absolute worst case scenario. So we look on through. Fog is going to get dropped down really, really quickly, and there's really no stopping that. Now, a lot of damage. Big Wrath of Nature coming on through from Way Too Sexy Universe. Going to be able to finish off the Lina. Big, big time lapse. Bring him back up to full after that Laguna Blade came out through. Wants to pursue onto Hani. At least force out this Aegis. He indeed does. Now, on the eastern end, we do see Arrow trying to get at least a good stun out before he falls back from this position. Could actually save him. No, the Fiend's Grip too much. It's going to be the death of Hani right here with that Bane disabling up. So, unfortunately for them, I talked about how freaking survivable that lifestealer is, but if he's the last morsel on the platter that was handed to Dignitas here, he's just going to be focused down and disabled on up. So good use, saving the Tides of Time, Fiend's Grip until after that entire engagement through, and it was just unfortunate that they took so much incidental damage right off the bat there. So we see another experience swing as their big, big mountain that they just shot up in the air with is just going to be plummeting on down back towards the other direction. In the meantime, Tier 1 is going to be pressured, possibly drop down, as Lina can't do too much by himself. But it looks like they are a little bit afraid. The Laguna Blade coming back off cooldown in a moment, and they just don't want to mess with that. Invisibility for Tides, presumably. So this is really interesting. Let's look at the items. Soul Ring coming out for Shadow Demon. That's very unorthodox in my mind. He generally has plenty of mana to work with, but it makes more sense when you look at the fact he's gone for a Shadow Poison build. 50 mana cost each time. He wants to keep on spamming that out, and the best way to do that is to go for the Soul Ring Tranquils or some Arcanes. So that works out for him. He's going to be moving in towards the bottom with that smoke, but it's going to be Trixie that gets picked off here with that Bat Rider Lasso Blink. Now they go for the TP. Where are they going with that? I'm not too sure, but looks like Razor is going to be falling back from here. So the Smoke Ink, unfortunately for them, unsuccessful. Despite no sentries, I'm guessing that they did have this Dire Ward here, so it possibly saw them up on this cliff. As a matter of fact, I would count on it. In the meantime, like I was saying, items is really, really the key thing here. The Linken's isn't up yet for Universe, but Aoi has finished up that Mechanism Cloak. So a lot of effective HP on that Razor. All he has to do is survive and keep that Link rolling, as well as a little bit of the Eye of the Storm. So from there, he will be able to steal up a bunch of damage from whatever carry he prefers and finish it off. I think probably the best one to steal it from would possibly be Era, based on the fact that he does a substantial amount of damage, but more importantly, because of his attack speed. He has Treads and the Shadow Blade, and on top of that, his Chemical Rage reduces his base attack time down to 1.2. So he's attacking really fast, and any attack damage reduction is going to be substantially reducing his damage because of all of his AS that's already on the field. Linken's up on the Weaver. Look what he's been looking for all game long, and with this rank 3 time lapse, he's going to be in a good position to move forward and play very aggressively. They still might be able to finish him off if they get a well-timed combo of abilities, but I think they're going to have to waste at least a homing missile to pop off that Linken's before they can engage fully. And in the meantime, yeah, Weaver can go for pretty much whatever he wants. He can go for some physical attack damage items, like something from the Demon Edge bracket, which would be like an MKB, would be awesome, even though I don't think a Butterfly is going to be built anytime soon. But it's still a lot of great attack damage he can put out there. Radiant's not really an option based on the timing, but I still think that the Weaver could go for a little bit more offensive type item. Anything with good attack damage, even a Day Dallas, could be pretty substantial even if it doesn't geminate. And from there, build up a heart after the fact to make sure that there is no chance in the world for him to be dropped down in that time period where he's being focused. And if a Weaver is able to just keep on DPSing throughout this progress, even going up against 3 heroes, he's going to be in an okay position, just using Geminate after Geminate and gradually reducing their armor with the Swarm. We'll have to see. In the meantime, Orchid is finished up for the Nature's Prophet, so he's going to be able to gank a lot more aggressively, especially on the supports. If Shadow Demon can't disrupt himself or an ally, he's going to be in a really bad spot where he really can't retaliate in any kind of exchange. So we could see Nature's Prophet going for solo pickoffs at any point in time, and there's really not too much to stop him. In the meantime, Trixie picking up that BKB. Again, there's a lot of stuff that pierces on through the BKB, but it looks like there's a quick pickoff with an overextended Razor getting picked off by Era's Shadow Blade Concoction combo. Going on through here, the Bat Rider is going to be looking for that Force Staff, trying to pull somebody out of position. Speaking of, going on Trixie right here, pulling him out of the call down immediately with that Haste Rune, but No Tail is nearby as well. Universe going to focus down on Trixie, and it looks like he's going to take a fall. Just dropping really, really quickly, and that's going to be too much for him to handle. And in the meantime, Fnatic can't really retaliate based on their position down on the bottom lane. Now coming on through, is that a friggin' Shadow Blade on a Lifestealer? I wouldn't believe it if I didn't see it, but holy crap, Hani picking up a Shadow Blade. If you want to go aggressive early to mid game, which I guess 24 minutes still barely constitutes as, Shadow Blade is a great item to be able to dish out damage. We saw that in the last match that we saw. Team Liquid picked up a couple themselves. It's a really great way to make sure that the damage output is there. The 150 burst is very underestimated, but I gotta say, double Shadow Blade on a team, despite the redundancy of the invisibility and how it can be counteracted. It's interesting because it also does give the Lifestealer some attack speed to keep that feast rolling. I just don't know if it's really what he's looking for, but it's Hani's decision and he's going to go with it. So I think that's going to be a really nice burst. They just need to be able to get into the combat. And from there, one thing is Dignitas' lineup is really evasive, whether from the Disables of Bane, the Blink and soon-to-be Force out of Fogged, or the maximum movement speed of Weaver using that Shikuchi. So either way, it's going to be really, really interesting engages, but yeah, that Shadow Blade blows my mind right now. Really, really silly, but it definitely could work for them. I can't negate that fact. And it looks like Mjolnir is finished up on the Alchemist, so although he doesn't have much effective HP, only sitting at 1300 out of Chemical Rage, he still will be able to dish out a ton of damage, almost a 16. We're going to see like the fastest attacking Ochre. I mean, he looks like he has a Troll Warlord's ultimate active on him while he's striking on through, because 1.0 base attack time with an increased attack speed, he has 274% attack speed. So that is just going to be crazy ridiculous. He's going to be attacking well over 2 times a second and making his way towards 3 actually. So pretty awesome stuff to see there, and now they make their move onto the tier 2 tower here, trying to finally get this push off. But one thing to note is Roshan is up in only 3 minutes, so taking off this map control out of the Dire's hands, Dignitas won't be able to retaliate on a Roche engagement nearly as effectively. In the meantime, casual tier 1 pickup, not really contested at all, from Weaver and the Nature's Prophet, and that enables them to put damage onto the tier 2, and level 16 Alchemist taking down the tier 2 tower effectively. But Geometry Sight is up on the Weaver. Those Shadow Blades will be negated in that sense, so there's really not that opportunity. Actually, Gem on both. Lifestealer has one and the Weaver has one. They both know what's up no matter what, and it's just about the engagement, the timing, and the initiation. And we'll see how that works out for them if Bat Rider gets the pick off first, or if No Tail is able to get off a really good disruption to set up their team. From there, it really is a hard question to see who's going to be able to get what they want accomplished, but Way Too Sexy and Universe doing so much split push right here. It's forcing, no, Gyro cancels it out, says not even worth it, we're going to go for tier 3, and they have more push. Actually, the lasso comes on through. Do they have the team fight? 2 are still on bottom lane. The Concoction goes on through with Mjolnir active, and there's big damage coming on through, but only on creeps for the time being. Now Trixie with that BKB, being script under tower, he's going to take so much damage right here. Get the stun and tides, gets the burst with the Luna Blade. He's going to be picked off, but Trixie too low, going to get dropped down as well. So they go in pursuit. They're going to be able to finish off the Lina. Nice flame break to finish off No Tail as well. So that was completely cleaned up, despite the fact that Dignitas initiated before their allies were able to retreat. But with the Nature's Prophet teleport, with the Weaver and a simple TP scroll, they were in the fray and able to dish out the damage they needed to. So really, really good counter positioning from Dignitas, pulling them into the base underneath the tower, and they just couldn't survive. I mentioned multiple times over how they haven't gone for effective HP, whether Alchemist 2266 during Chemical actually going in. Era going to be able to burst down Aoi really hardcore. Look at that attack speed. Now going to go on in pursuit of Fog. No, just going to fall back from here because they can't really stay on top of these two. But either way, that was really, really good initiation from Dignitas, and it's definitely what they needed. Fog going on in, just scaring them off for the time being, I think. But look at that experience swing. It was a giant mountain to plummet back on down, but it was only a temporary gain for Fnatic, which has now been counteracted by Dignitas. And I don't know if they have the late game to support it. It's very much on the back of Weaver, and whether or not he can get the attack damage he needs to dish out. But in the meantime, they are doing performing rather admirably in the sense that they're pushing continuously. And now that the tier 2s are down on bottom, they can always have the opportunity to try to do a little bit of backdoor split pushing, get the Nature's Call up, and try to bring down towers to put that pressure out. Very frustrating thing to deal with, and this Prophet has that opportunity to 1v1 with this Orchid. So, interesting little set of plays, but in the end, I still think that Fnatic really, if they can get a little bit more gold, they'll be in a good spot. Look at the net worth. I've had it up for a while, actually, so you should be fairly understood of it, but 15k for the Alchemist and only 12.5 for the Weaver, along with that 10.8k for the Lifestealer and almost just short of 10k for No Tail, sitting at 9,700. But from there, what you're looking at is a lot of farm on these heroes. They have the Shadow Blades, which some may debate whether or not it's actually very effective, because you can't really build it into anything else, and it doesn't take up that much cost for the item slot. So I think it's, what, 3,000 gold? And taking up that whole item slot, along with an armlet, those two are relatively cheap items compared to big things like, I don't know, a Satanic, a Heart, an Abyssal Blade. Those kinds of things, comparatively speaking, are much richer as far as luxurious, using those item slots more effectively. But either way, the Shadow Blade comes on through. Hani has lots of mobility with it. Having the Phase, having the S-Blade, allows him to close the distance even if he gets scouted out with a gem. Speaking of which, a Geometry Sight is still up on both, as Alchemist never dropped down in that, neither did the Nyx. In the meantime, we also... I kind of lost my train of thought there. Just give me 1 second on that, but no, I'm not going to find it. So I'm just going to go on to a different topic. Roshan is up, and they're going to be looking to pursue that with this rune control that they've provided for themselves. But in the meantime, Fogged, even at nighttime, using the Fireflight to try to get vision right here. Instead, Era going in. They pop off the Demonic Purge on the Razor, and they're going to burst him down really hard. No, focusing Bane. Good call. Finishing him off before the Fiend's Grip can matter. Universe is going to do some damage to Fly, but the Ghost Scepter comes out. Era getting pulled in by the lasso, but Trixie is able to finish off. The Razor has to buy back. Now turning around, the Batrider has already dropped down, and even with that Razor buyback, I don't think they can contest a Roche fight, even if the BKBs are on cooldown, which I think there's only one for the time being. So yeah, Trixie popped off his BKB, used it to bring down the Razor, forced that buyback of 950 gold. In the meantime, they're going to go for this Roche and remain uncontested as Nature's Prophet pushes a bit up on the top lane.
Roshan has fallen to the Radiant.
In the meantime, it looks like Lifesteal might go for a Scotty. Has the Orb of Venom and the Ultimate Orb. I mean, there's plenty of different options from there. Possibly could be a Scythe of Ice even for some hard disables, but it remains to be seen. I'm going to slow things down a little bit, as I think they're mostly going to draw the line. Dignitas doesn't want to go too far from home with the gems on the Prowl, as well as that Aegis on the Alchemist and his amazing damage output. Again, his attacks per second, he can almost do 3 attacks per second. It's just immense. And it's actually just going to go for a quick stack to make sure he can farm up very extensively, not only doubling the gold from the golems themselves, or the ancients themselves, but also getting some more stacks of that Goblin's Greed. In the meantime, Nature's Prophet, he went for an Orchid build, which, although it's great for maybe going for like a Lifestealer pickoff because he can't get the Rage out because he's silenced, or maybe just killing off a support like I mentioned before, it kind of hinders his Scythe timing, and if he can't get that Scythe of Ice out on heroes that aren't immune to magic, such as his Alchemist, then that is a lot of damage you're going to have to take, and they don't really have an answer for the time being. I'm curious to see if Razor goes for a Heaven's Halberd or a BKB, both of them being understandable options in either case, but it's really hard to say at this point. Buyback is on cooldown for the Razor for 3 minutes, and that means he is a little bit more wary to engage. Not that he wants to spend that gold anyways, but felt it was warranted in that last engagement. So Mechanism is really... The current situation is that Fnatic doesn't have any healing items. They don't have the Mechanism or the Pipe of Insight. They have a friggin' AC Mjolnir on the Alchemist who can just farm, as well as some travels and gems and so on and so forth. But the supports themselves are rather broke. They go for the Ghost Scepters to survive the Razor and Weaver auto attacks, but now they're finally picking up a 33-minute Mechanism very shortly, and that will help them a little bit sustaining in the fights, but it kind of feels like too little too late. Now, I guess it's never too late for a Mechanism, but the sooner you get the Mechanism, the more relevant it'll be in the middle of the team fight. Air with the boosted travels, doing some push on the tower, and there's not too much to stop him right now. Has to pop off the Fiend's Grip if they really want to contest this, but again, he has plenty of backup for the time being. So Air coming on through, just wailing away at that tower. The Nightmare starts things off and disrupting him. I'm not sure what that really accomplished. Getting some illusions, I guess. But beyond that, they're just drawing the line. They don't want to really have to go on this Alchemist because It's kind of what I said about the Weaver before. He has 2 full lives available with this Aegis the Immortal, and if they put that much into trying to kill him and trying to bring him down 100 to 0, he's going to pop up with full HP, and there's no chance for them to win that fight because all their cooldowns are down. So that's really the kind of mindset they were looking at, and you could throw an Alchemist past their tower, and they probably still wouldn't want to go for it if they thought that Fnatic could reinforce it. Butterfly comes out for Weaver. That is very, very interesting indeed. Bringing that up is going to be enable him to dodge out 35% of physical auto attacks heading his way. And right now an MKB is only close for the Gyrocopter. He's pretty much the only one opting for a Demon Edge, and he's actually only 1k away from that MKB, but Lifestealer and Alchemist going to have to build that from scratch, and it will take a bit of time before they can actually dish out the damage that they intend to up against this Weaver. And BKB has finished up on Razor, so he's not going to be as bursted down by Lina and Shadow Demon, but as we've seen in recent fights, it's not really the Lina and Shadow Demon that are doing that big of a deal. They've focused down quite a bit on the Bane and the Bat Rider, and instead it's the auto attacks coming through onto Razor that just wreak havoc with that. Now Arrow dropping down to 800 HP just overstayed his welcome a little bit too much and took a bunch of auto attacks, but they are getting that gradual siege onto this tower, quite literally, with the siege creep about to fall. So that's dropping down 4 to 1/4 of HP. And that is going to enable them to actually push in really quickly. Only a few hits on the tower will put them on an equal playing field up on the high ground. So taking the long route as far as the siege goes, I'm kind of surprised Nature's Prophet isn't taking an opportunity to use his teleportation and then TP scroll on back as necessary. But they want to go in. They pop off. The Fog jumps on in with that blink, and so they're just going to walk away from this. So now going on through the open wounds onto Fog. He's slowed up so hardcore. Does get the Nightmare for the time being, but that does get canceled out. He gets dropped down, and so the Fiend Grip goes down to Hani, immediately dropping down the Bane, and this looks like it might be a completely dominated teamfight for Fnatic. They were actually able to pick off the Razor on the northern end with Alchemist, and he's just doing so much right here with the Aegis still intact. He finishes off the Weaver despite the evasion. He gets a triple kill. The Aegis pops, and there's nothing that Dignitas can do here. They can go for the throne. They don't have enough as far as buybacks go. Actually, only the Nature's Prophet to be able to buy back, and yeah, that's one dead Prophet. Ultra kill for Era, and they're going to finish this off. Good Game should be calling out any second, and with that, even on the USC servers, Fnatic taking the second win and shutting out Dignitas. I don't want to call it too early, but we have all 5 heroes up in the base, and all they have to do is right-click down the towers and the throne. So sorry for those that don't prefer me to call it early, but this is pretty much it. Yeah, trying to delay the inevitable. They do have the lasso, trying to blink in Force Staff. They might try to make something happen here, but there's just too much. The Laguna Blade's still available. They have the stuns. They have to force the Bane back for the time being. Shadow Blade's everywhere. And yeah, there's no way for them to defend this here. Batrider pulling in Trixie, pulling him into the fountain is going to lead to his demise. He doesn't have buyback, having popped off that Monkey King bar, but a few right clicks on the throne should change their minds as far as the conclusion of this game here. They're just going to keep the right clicks going. They should, but for the time being, Fnatic not actually finishing the job. So instead turning over to Fog Dota, going to finish that off really quickly. Now turning over to Aoi 2000, BKB'd up with a ton of damage, has a bonus of 250 right now, but gets stunned up and is going to be locked down right here. So very unfortunate, but just can't do too much against that. And instead the Basher comes on through from the Alchemist, and that is the conclusion. That is their kill, finishing off the Bane. Now going for the Prophet, going to stun him out, and then after the Ghost Scepter expires, get the kills they need. Meantime, Universe playing cat and mouse, trying to do some damage to Hani, but I don't think he can contest this right here, even with that time lapse. Now that the Alchemist is here, they have the Gem of True Sight, they just have to stay on target, and it looks like Lifesteal will have to pop off the Infest, but the good game finally does come out from Way Too Sexy. And unfortunately, yeah, that's too much for the Lifestealer, but they do have 2 other people in the base to finish the job. So that's the death of Universe Dota. Second Gem of True Sight claimed if they want it, but that is good game, well played, called. So really good action from them. Hani able to focus down on this Ancient and finish the job. So nice final attempt by Dignitas, but it was just too much for them to contest. Look at that goal graph. The experience is about to go away as well, so throw that up there. But it was just too much in the end. Jumping out at about the 28-minute mark. Huge advantage from Fnatic, getting a couple Roshes uncontested, getting a few pickoffs here and there, and once they got enough farm, the 3 carry lineup really played into their hands. So they had the net worth advantage. They were able to overcome the Weaver's early dominance, and from there scale on into the late game effectively enough to just completely wreak havoc with Dignitas' fights. So I think that Dignitas played it well in a couple of really good engages, pulling them back into their own base preemptively, really shut down and almost completely wiped out Fnatic, which was really good for them. But they just couldn't stick it out. Their lineup specifically was for some early to mid presence, kind of picking a bunch of anti-carries like the Razor and Bane, and it just didn't pan out for them in the end. So, well played to Fnatic. That was, in this best-of-3 series, Game 2, both wins going to Fnatic in this 2-0 of the series. So, that is going to be the last game for us on the Premier League. That is Fnatic taking the win for this best-of-3 series today. So, we're going to be going on into, presumably, an interview with No Tail is what I'm going to be looking at in just a minute, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was really, really well played out, and it was a fun game to cast for you guys. So we'll get No Tail up on the stream in just a minute, and I thank you guys so much for tuning in. This is, again, Blaze from the Premier League, and you all have a good one.